Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelvy, and this is going to be part 3 of my guide series on Gen Con. We're going to have some specific information to 2025, but this guide can be used regardless of what year it is. Just be aware that I'll be using 2025 information. Just a couple of updates. As of yesterday, badges for 2025 were on sale. According to some of the folks that I know in the VIG program, some of the popular downtown hotels have already sold out. So you want to make sure that you get your badge by February 21st at midnight to make sure that you get a hotel slot. Buying your badge early doesn't mean that you're going to get a better time slot, but it does ensure that you will get one to begin with. I expect that this year's Gen Con is going to be pretty packed. Last year was the 50th anniversary of D&D, and that had a pretty high turnout. This year, Critical Role is going to be here and doing a live show, so I expect attendance to be pretty high as well. I know that time's a little strange when people talk about midnight, so consider the deadline 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on February 21st. The hotel block itself is going to open up on February 23rd at noon, but you'll get your time slot before that, so you'll know when you can come in and log in and try your chances at a hotel. Alright, so moving on from the hotel updates, let's talk about the actual topic of this video, which is going to be the exhibit hall. I don't really have a ton to talk about when it comes to the exhibit hall. It's a big hall where you go and buy stuff, but we'll still talk about it just to make sure that newer Gen Con goers are going to cover all their bases. So the exhibit hall, like I said, is going to be where all of the vendors and exhibitors are going to come and sell you their wares, whether that be board games, tabletop games, card games, accessories, apparel, merchandise, collectibles, what have you. It's all going to be here in the exhibit hall. I should mention that this is an area of the convention that is badged. You do have to have a badge to enter the exhibit hall. There will be staff stationed at every entrance to the exhibit hall to make sure that you have a badge before you can enter. You don't have to have an ID or anything to prove it's you, just make sure that you are wearing your badge face first and they should let you in. The exhibit hall itself is over 330,000 square feet. Someone did the math on this and they calculate it to be roughly the size of 3 Home Depots. If you're from America and you know what Home Depot is, that should give you a pretty good scale on how big the convention hall is at Gen Con. If you're not from America, Home Depot is a very, very large hardware store, and this is 3 of them, so it's very, very big. And that 330,000 square feet only covers just the exhibit hall. It doesn't cover the attached hall where all the demonstrations from different publishers are taking place and card game tournaments and such. It's very, very large. I cannot possibly explain the scale of Gen Con in a video. You just kind of have to come and see it to get a feel for it. Last year, there were over 540 exhibitors at Gen Con, some as large as Paizo or Chaosium, and then some as small as a single-person development team. I expect there will be at least 540, if not more, this year. The exhibit hall has different hours than the convention itself. The exhibit hall is going to open on Thursday at 10 and will close at 6. Those hours will be the same for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with Sunday opening at 10 and closing at 4. Overall, it's going to be open for 30 hours the entire convention. One thing I would recommend for you to enhance your Gen Con experience is to pick up a coupon book. The coupon books can be picked up near the will call line. You don't actually have to wait in the will call line to get one, but if you're already in the will call line, you might as well pick one up. You can also pick them up, I believe, on some tables towards the back of the exhibit hall. But these coupon books function essentially as little coupons for the different vendors. Some may give you a small discount on top of their prices, and then some will actually offer free little trinkets. A lot of booths will give you a free D6 or something if you stop by their booth and present the coupon. This is kind of how they do swag at Gen Con. They don't give you like a swag bag. They'll give you the coupon book and then say, hey, you should go get your free stuff at the booth. So if you've ever been to a convention before, whether that be anime or pop culture or other game conventions even, you might think that Saturday is like the really busy day, the day where everything is shoulder to shoulder packed and you can't move around without bumping into everybody. As time has gone on, that has kind of become every day at Gen Con. There will not really be a time in the exhibit hall where you feel not claustrophobic. I have a couple of videos here that may put into scale how big Gen Con is and how hectic the exhibit hall is going to be. So someone did the math, and if you wanted to see the entire exhibit hall, you could do it in one single Gen Con trip. Here's the catch. You would have to go to each booth, and you could only spend 6 minutes at each booth. That's it. That's the only way for you to see everything. So if you're coming to Gen Con and you expect to spend all of your time in the exhibit hall, then you can totally expect to see everything there for 6 minutes apiece. It's really not feasible for you to expect to see the entire exhibit hall and also go to other events and play other games and do other things for the convention. You can see the entire exhibit hall if you focus on just seeing the exhibit hall, but otherwise, I wouldn't expect to see the whole thing. And what's wild is that 6 minute per booth time limit doesn't even count when you talk about the art show or the makers market. Speaking of the art show, you might think of like a traditional artist alley at a convention. That's not quite what's going on here at Gen Con. The art show at Gen Con is a juried process, so all of these artists have to submit works to be judged by the jury. And that does come complete with like an award, so if you submit art and people think you're good, you can actually win an award for it, and that's pretty nice. But it's part of the exhibit hall is going to be set up for these artists to have their booth so they can show off and sell their art as well. There is a focus on original art, but some of these artists are very prolific and have drawn art for different tabletop stuff, for different Magic cards, for different other trading cards. So expect to see some of that as well as like fan art. I've seen a lot of Critical Role and Dimension 20 fan art there, so expect you to see that as well. And it should all be available for purchase. A lot of these popular prints do sell out pretty quickly, so if you want to get something, you want to make sure that you get there as early as is reasonable. I also mentioned the Makers Market, and this is another area of the convention where you can go and expect to purchase things. This is not in the exhibit hall itself. It is kind of in the tunnel that connects the convention center to the Lucas Oil Stadium, and that has grown in the past year or two that it's been there. So there's a lot of stuff down there. So don't think that the exhibit hall is the only place you can find good stuff. I've seen a ton of different like dice makers and accessory makers set up in the Makers Mart, and they all have really good stuff. So be sure to check that out. So while you're in the exhibit hall and you're looking at things to buy, it is very, very common for you to come up on a booth that will offer to give you a demo of their game. These are usually like top level demos. It's not going to go super in depth into the game's mechanics or anything. This is just kind of for you to get a feel of what the game is like before you take on a larger demo or commit to buying the game itself. The good news is these aren't things that you sign up for. You can just walk up to a booth and they're more than likely to be happy to give you a demo of their game. And because you can buy event tickets during Gen Con, if you demo a game in the exhibit hall and you really like it, it's entirely possible you can find someone running that game during the convention that you can then sign up for. That's really all I have to say about the exhibit hall at Gen Con as far as like what sets it apart from other convention exhibit halls, but I do have a few notes that are going to be helpful to you both at Gen Con and at other conventions. So one of my biggest pet peeves at conventions is folks who stop in the middle of the aisles to have a full-blown conversation. Don't do that. If you have to have a conversation in the exhibit hall, move off to the side so that you can talk to whoever you need to talk to and you're not blocking the flow of traffic in the exhibit hall. Another big tip is going to be have spatial awareness. I can't tell you not to bring like a cart to carry all of your things and drag it through the exhibit hall because they're not banned. And I also can't tell you not to wear one of those huge board game backpacks because they are big and bulky, they're not banned, and frankly they're convenient if you want to carry all of your board games around. So what I'll tell you instead is to just be aware of the space around you and be aware of how much space you are taking up. It's entirely possible that during the convention you bump into someone or someone trips over your stuff. This isn't a hard conversation to have. Don't get upset, don't get angry, just apologize or say you're sorry and move on. Hopefully that's going to be the end of it. If you're cordial about it, it's probably going to be fine. Maybe one tip that's specific to Gen Con is don't buy the huge board game at the beginning of the day, because while you're excited that you're going to have the good game, you're going to be really sad when you realize you have to lug around the 50 or 60 pound box for the rest of the day. I do understand if it's like a new release and it's a limited release and you might not get it if you don't get there early and grab it, but do be mindful that if you pick something up and you don't plan to go back to your hotel room immediately after, you are going to have to carry that around with you until you go back. This happened to me at PAX Unplugged in 2022, I believe. I wanted to buy Frosthaven and I wanted to make sure that I got it, so I bought it like first thing. I didn't really realize that I'd either have to lug it back down 3 blocks to my hotel room or carry it around with me the rest of the day. Fortunately, one of my friends is a lot stronger than me, and he offered to carry it around for me. So I will forever thank you, Josh. Josh isn't dead. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, speaking of like hot new games, if you are after a hot new game at Gen Con that you know is going to be releasing in limited quantities, you might want to consider getting there super early the day that it's going to come out. I do remember trying to get Queen by Midnight last year, no, the year before last year, and I thought that I showed up pretty early to get it, but as you can see from this video here, I was not even close to the front of the line. So if you're sure that you want to try and get something early, you should get there really, really early. Way earlier than you think you need to be. Sometimes companies will hold a certain amount of copies to sell per day, so they'll hold 100 for Thursday, 100 for Friday, 100 for Saturday, or whatever. But they don't always do that, and I can't blame them. If they're going to sell out on Thursday, then why wouldn't you sell all your copies on Thursday? That's an easy way to make money, guaranteed money. I do prefer it when they hold certain amounts so that if you're maybe not going on Thursday or Friday, you're just going Saturday or just going Sunday, that there's still a possibility for you to buy the game. But from a business perspective, I totally understand companies that just sell on Thursday. But like I said, just if you're gonna try to go for one of these games, get there early, and I would say get there Thursday. If you don't manage to snag the game, it's not the end of the world. You can always buy it online or buy it later. Sometimes the booth will actually let you pre-order the game right then and there, and maybe even like with any cool con exclusive items. So keep that in mind as well. This last little bit is something that I think is gonna be good advice for any convention. Cash is king. I don't really like carrying cash. It just seems like if I drop my wallet, that's kind of it, because that's what cash is. But if you take cash to a vendor, they're likely to not charge you the sales tax on items or any kind of credit card processing fees, because they don't have to pay the fees and they'll pass those savings on to you. So if you're a cash person, cash is not a bad thing to have on your person at Gen Con. I will say that if you do carry cash, make sure you keep a good eye on your bag. As much as I would like to say that everyone at Gen Con is friendly and helpful and would never steal from you, that's not the reality of the world that we live in. Alright, well I think that does it for this video. I'm not sure what else I could talk about, so this may be the final video in the series. Maybe I'll talk about my experiences with the hotel block this year, if there's any changes or anything, or event registration as it gets closer. But if you have any ideas for any videos, please leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you'd like to see from me, and I think that'll do it. Until next time, see you later.